All right, so we're diving into global warming today.
Yeah,
You've brought this topic to us, and it's definitely been heating up the headlines.
for sure.
You're really looking to go deeper than the usual headlines.
Yes.
And really understand the nuances of global warming's impact and what we can actually do about it.
Absolutely.
And you're right, the situation is pretty urgent.
Yeah.
We're seeing the effects already of a 1.1 degrees Celsius temperature rise over the last century.
It's significant. Yeah.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
It's not just about the big numbers.
Right.
It's about understanding how even tiny shifts can trigger these huge chain reactions across the planet.
Yeah, that's what's so fascinating about this topic.
Right.
Most people understand the basics of global warming.
Yeah.
But what's really intriguing is how these seemingly small temperature increases can have this domino effect,
Yeah.
leading to rising sea levels, supercharged weather events,
Right.
and even disruptions to entire ecosystems.
Yeah.
It's not just about a few degrees on the thermometer.
Yeah.
It's about the delicate balance
Yeah.
of our planet being thrown off.
Okay, so for our deep dive today,
Yeah.
we've got a stack of reports, research papers, and even some first-hand accounts.
Wow.
We're talking scientific analysis, policy proposals, personal stories,
Great.
the whole shebang.
Exactly. And by weaving these different perspectives together,
Yeah.
we can move beyond those sort of simplified explanations
Right.
and really grasp the complexities of global warming. We'll be looking at the science behind it,
Yeah.
the very real consequences we're already seeing,
Yeah.
and importantly, the potential solutions that are within our reach.
Okay, so let's start by making sure we're all on the same page.
Okay.
When we talk about global warming,
Yeah.
what exactly are we talking about?
Well, at its core, global warming is the long-term increase in Earth's average surface temperature.
Okay.
It's not just about a hot summer here or there.
Right.
It's a sustained trend
Yeah.
driven by an increase in what we call radiative forcing.
Radiative force.
Basically, certain gases in the atmosphere trap heat from the sun,
Okay.
and human activities are pumping more and more of these gases into the air.
So it's kind of like we're adding extra layers to Earth's blanket,
Yeah.
and it's making the planet sweat.
That's a good analogy.
Okay.
But let's get a bit more specific.
Okay.
We know about the greenhouse effect, right?
Yeah.
Well, imagine that certain gases,
Yeah.
like carbon dioxide from burning fossil fuels
Uh-huh.
or methane from livestock,
Yeah.
are like thicker threads in that blanket,
Okay.
trapping more heat than usual.
Got it.
And as we keep adding these thicker threads,
Yeah.
the planet gets warmer and warmer.
So it's not just about the overall amount of greenhouse gases.
Right.
It's also about their specific potency, right?
Exactly.
Like
So
some
this-
gases are worse offenders than others.
Exactly. Methane, for example, traps heat much more effectively than carbon dioxide,
Wow.
even though there's less of it in the atmosphere.
Okay.
So understanding the nuances of each gas and its sources is crucial when we talk about solutions. It's not just about reducing emissions across the board.
Okay.
It's about targeting the most potent heat trappers
Yeah.
and finding innovative ways to mitigate their impact.
This is where it gets interesting for me. I've read about some fascinating research
Oh, really?
on using seaweed in livestock feed
Interesting.
to reduce methane emissions.
Yeah.
Apparently, it can make a real difference.
Yeah. That's a great example of the kind of innovative solutions that are being explored by adding certain types of seaweed to livestock feed.
Yeah.
Scientists have found that they can significantly reduce the amount of methane produced by cows and sheep.
Wow.
It's a promising development
Yeah.
that shows how seemingly small changes
All right.
can have a big impact on reducing greenhouse gas emissions.
Okay, so we've got a handle on the science behind global warming.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about why it matters.
Okay.
We hear about melting glaciers and rising sea levels, but what are the real-world consequences for people?
We're talking about a cascade of impacts that touch every aspect of life on Earth.
Wow.
And one of the most pressing is the threat to coastal communities.
Yeah.
Think of a city like Jakarta.
Okay.
It's home to millions of people.
Right.
And due to rising sea levels, parts of the city are sinking at an alarming rate.
Really?
We're talking centimeters per year.
Wow.
It's a slow-motion disaster that could displace entire populations.
It's mind-boggling to think about entire cities being swallowed by the sea.
Yeah.
What are the chances of turning the tide on this? Is it even possible to save a city like Jakarta?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And there's no easy answer.
Right.
But here's the crucial thing.
Okay.
Understanding the 1.5 degrees Celsius threshold that scientists have been emphasizing,
Okay.
keeping global warming below this limit,
Uh-huh.
is critical to preventing the most catastrophic impacts,
Okay.
including the worst-case scenarios for coastal cities.
So this 1.5 degrees is like a red line we don't want to cross.
Exactly.
Okay.
If we surpass this threshold,
Yeah.
the risks of runaway climate change increase dramatically.
Oh, wow.
We're talking about a point of no return,
Yeah.
where the impacts become much more severe
Right.
and potentially irreversible.
Okay.
It's why we need to act urgently and decisively.
So we've got this critical threshold, we've
What?
got cities sinking,
Uh-huh.
and we've got the potential for even more extreme weather events as the planet heats up.
Right.
It all sounds pretty dire,
Yeah.
but I'm also sensing a glimmer of hope here.
There's always hope.
Yeah.
And it's not about blind optimism.
Right.
It's about recognizing that we still have a window of opportunity to act.
Uh-huh.
And this is where our deep dive takes a turn towards solutions.
Okay.
Because while the challenges are immense,
Yeah.
so is human ingenuity.
Yeah.
We've got the technology, the knowledge, and the resources
Mhm.
to mitigate the worst effects of global warming.
Okay, so let's talk solutions.
Let's do it.
Where do we even begin to tackle a problem of this magnitude?
It's going to require a multi-pronged approach,
Okay.
a combination of individual actions, policy changes,
Uh-huh.
technological innovations,
Yeah.
and a fundamental shift in how we view our relationship with the planet.
Let's unpack that.
Okay.
What can our listeners sitting here today actually do to be part of the solution?
One of the most powerful things we can do is reduce our own carbon footprint.
Okay.
And this isn't about living a life of deprivation.
Right.
It's about making conscious choices
Yeah.
that align with a more sustainable lifestyle.
So what are some concrete examples?
Sure.
Give us the lowdown on what we can do in our daily lives.
We can start by looking at our transportation habits.
Okay.
Can we walk, bike, or take public transportation instead of driving alone in our cars?
Yeah.
Can we choose fuel-efficient vehicles or even consider electric cars?
Uh-huh.
These are all steps that can make a real difference in reducing our carbon footprint.
Those are all great ideas. But what about those of us who live in areas
Right.
where public transportation isn't easily accessible
Yeah,
or where driving is a necessity?
I hear you. It's about finding solutions that fit our individual circumstances.
Okay.
Even if you can't completely ditch the car,
Yeah.
you can still make conscious choices.
Okay.
Can you carpool with colleagues or friends?
Right.
Can you optimize your driving routes to reduce mileage?
Uh-huh.
Can you choose to run errands during off-peak hours to avoid traffic congestion?
Okay.
Every little bit helps.
So it's about being mindful of our choices.
Yeah.
And looking for opportunities to reduce our impact wherever we can.
Exactly. And it's not just about transportation.
Okay.
We can also look at our energy consumption at home.
Uh-huh.
Can we switch to energy-efficient appliances and LED light bulbs?
Yeah.
Can we adjust our thermostats a few degrees to conserve energy?
Okay.
Can we unplug electronics when we're not using them?
Right.
These are all simple changes
Yeah.
that can add up to significant energy savings.
And energy savings translate to reduced carbon emissions, right?
Right.
Okay.
And there's another powerful way to reduce our impact.
Yay. What's that?
Shifting towards renewable energy sources.
So solar panels on rooftops, wind farms on the horizon.
Exactly. Renewable energy is becoming increasingly accessible and affordable.
Yeah.
And it's a game changer
Yeah.
when it comes to reducing our reliance on fossil fuels.
Okay.
If you have the means, consider investing in solar panels for your home or exploring community solar options.
Right.
Even if you rent or can't install panels yourself,
Yeah.
you can often choose renewable energy plans from your electricity provider.
This is all starting to feel a lot more manageable.
Yeah.
It's not about making drastic changes overnight.
Right.
It's about taking small but consistent steps in the right direction.
I agree. It's about building a sustainable lifestyle, one choice at a time.
Yeah.
And these choices, when multiplied across millions of individuals,
Mm-hmm.
can create a wave of change that will ultimately reshape our energy systems, our economies, and our relationship with the planet.
So we've talked about reducing our carbon footprint through transportation,
Yeah.
energy consumption, and even supporting renewable energy.
Right.
What other areas of our lives can we look at? What about things like the food we eat
Oh, yeah.
or the clothes we wear?
You're hitting on a crucial point.
Okay.
Our consumption habits have a huge impact on the environment.
Yeah.
Everything we buy,
Mm-hmm.
from a t-shirt to a smartphone,
Right.
has a carbon footprint associated with its production, transportation, and disposal.
Wow.
So being mindful of what we buy
Yeah.
and how much we consume is key.
So less is more.
In many cases, yes.
Okay.
It's about shifting away from a culture of overconsumption
Right.
and embracing a more mindful approach to our purchases.
Okay.
Can we repair items instead of throwing them away?
Uh-huh.
Can we buy used goods instead of always buying new?
Yeah.
Can we choose products with minimal packaging?
Okay.
These are all ways to reduce our impact.
It's like a ripple effect where every choice we make sends out waves of impact.
Yeah.
And those waves, when combined with the actions of millions of others, can create a powerful force for change.
Absolutely.
Right.
And it's not just about reducing our impact.
Okay.
It's also about supporting businesses and organizations that are doing things right.
Okay.
We can choose to buy from companies that prioritize sustainable practices, that use recycled materials,
Yeah.
that treat their workers fairly,
Right.
and that are committed to reducing their environmental footprint.
So we can vote with our wallets, so to speak.
You got it.
Okay.
Our consumer choices have immense power.
Yeah.
By supporting sustainable businesses, we're sending a clear message that we value environmental and social responsibility.
Yeah, okay.
And that message, when amplified by millions of consumers, can drive real change in the marketplace.
This is starting to feel a lot more hopeful.
Good. I'm glad.
It's not about feeling helpless in the face of a global crisis. It's about recognizing that we all have agency.
Yes.
That our choices matter.
Exactly.
And that together we can make a difference.
I love that you're feeling empowered.
Yeah.
That's the spirit we need to tackle this challenge.
Right.
Because individual action, when combined with systemic change, has the potential to create a future where humanity and nature can thrive in harmony.
Speaking of systemic change,
Yeah.
that's where things can feel a bit overwhelming.
Right.
How do we move beyond individual actions
Yeah.
and create change at a larger scale?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And it's something we'll be exploring more deeply in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay.
But for now, I'll leave you with this thought.
All right.
Our voices matter.
Okay.
We can use our platforms, our networks, and our votes to advocate for policies that address climate change at a systemic level.
So it's about making our voices heard.
Yes.
Whether it's through writing to our elected officials, engaging in conversations about climate change with our communities. Yes.
We're simply sharing our knowledge and passion with those around us.
Exactly. And that's the power of collective action.
Right.
When we come together, when we share our stories, when we raise our voices in unison, we create a force that can't be ignored.
This has been an incredible start to our deep dive into global warming. We've explored the science, the impacts, and even started to uncover some of the solutions within our reach.
That's right.
But there's so much more to discover.
For sure.
We'll be back in part 2 to delve deeper into the specific consequences of global warming.
Okay.
From rising sea levels to supercharged weather events and beyond.
I can't wait.
Until then, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep believing in the power of collective action.
Absolutely.
Welcome back to our deep dive into global warming. We've laid the groundwork, understanding the science and the urgency of the situation.
For sure.
Now, let's roll up our sleeves and get into the nitty-gritty.
Of what a warming world actually looks like. We know the planet's getting hotter.
Yeah.
But what does that mean for the everyday lives of people around the globe?
That's where the rubber really hits the road. It's about connecting those abstract temperature increases to the tangible consequences we're already witnessing.
Yeah.
And perhaps the most visually dramatic of these is rising sea levels. It's not just a gradual inching up of the tide.
Right.
We're talking about a potential reshaping of coastlines.
Wow.
Affecting millions, even billions of people.
You mentioned Jakarta earlier,
Yeah.
a city literally sinking under the weight of rising waters.
Right.
It paints a rather alarming picture.
It is.
What other places are on the front lines of this watery battle?
Think of iconic cities like Miami, Venice, even New York City.
Wow.
They're all grappling with the very real threat of inundation.
Yeah.
And it's not just about losing prime real estate or beachfront views.
Right.
We're talking about saltwater intrusion, contaminating freshwater supplies, eroding infrastructure,
Yeah.
and displacing entire communities.
Wow.
It's a humanitarian crisis in slow motion.
So we've got these major metropolitan areas facing existential threats. But what about the human impact on a smaller scale?
Yeah.
What about the folks who don't live in these global hotspots?
Well, remember, rising sea levels are just one piece of the global warming puzzle.
Oh, wait.
Another and perhaps even more immediately felt, is the increase in extreme weather events.
Right.
We're talking about heat waves so intense they buckle roads.
Wow.
Droughts that cripple agriculture.
Yeah.
And wildfires that rage across continents. These events aren't new.
Right.
But global warming is turning up the dial on their intensity and frequency.
It's interesting you mentioned that. I was reading about a study that linked the recent devastating wildfires in Australia directly to climate change.
Wow.
The researchers found that the hotter, drier conditions created a tinderbox scenario that made these fires much more likely and much more destructive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Global warming doesn't necessarily create these events out of thin air.
Okay.
But it acts as a threat multiplier, turning what might have been manageable events into full-blown catastrophes.
Right.
And the human cost is staggering.
Yeah.
We're talking about loss of life, displacement, economic devastation, and long-term trauma for those who survive.
It's like the planet is sending us a message in a language we can't ignore.
It is.
A language of fire, flood, and fury.
Yeah.
But beyond the human toll, what about the impact on the natural world? We briefly touched on biodiversity loss earlier.
Right.
But I'd like to explore that further.
It's a deeply interconnected web. And unfortunately, we're seeing that web unraveling before our eyes.
Oh, wow.
As temperatures rise and ecosystems shift, countless species are struggling to adapt.
Okay.
The iconic polar bear on melting ice is just the tip of the iceberg.
Why?
We're talking about coral reefs bleaching and dying, forests succumbing to drought and disease, and entire populations of animals facing extinction.
It's like a domino effect where one species decline can trigger a chain reaction throughout an entire ecosystem.
Absolutely.
But is it all doom and gloom? Are there any glimmers of resilience in the natural world?
While it's true that many species are struggling, there are also inspiring examples of adaptation and resilience.
Okay.
Some plants are evolving to tolerate hotter, drier conditions. Some animals are shifting their ranges to find more suitable habitats.
Right.
And scientists are working on innovative conservation strategies to protect vulnerable species and restore damaged ecosystems.
It's a reminder that nature is incredibly adaptable, even in the face of unprecedented challenges.
It is.
But it's also a call to action.
Yeah.
We can't just sit back and expect nature to fix itself.
No.
We need to be active participants in its recovery.
Absolutely. And that's where the solutions we discussed earlier come into play. By reducing our carbon footprint, transitioning to clean energy, and supporting sustainable practices, we're not just mitigating the worst effects of climate change.
Right.
We're creating the conditions for nature to heal and thrive.
It's like we're weaving a new tapestry of life on Earth.
Yeah.
One that's more resilient, more equitable, and more sustainable.
Absolutely.
But how do we scale up these solutions from individual actions to global transformation?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And it's one that's going to require a collective effort.
Okay.
On a scale never seen before.
Wow.
We need governments to implement ambitious climate policies, businesses to invest in clean technologies, and individuals to make conscious choices in their daily lives.
Yeah.
It's a multi-pronged approach, and it's going to require us to work together like never before.
This brings us back to the idea of collective action.
Yeah.
The power of individuals coming together to create change. We talked about voting with our wallets, supporting sustainable businesses, and advocating for policy changes. But what about the emotional side of this issue? How do we deal with the feelings of overwhelm, anxiety, and even despair that can come with grappling with the enormity of climate change?
It's important to acknowledge those feelings.
Okay.
They're valid and they're shared by many.
Yeah.
It's easy to feel helpless in the face of such a complex global issue.
Right.
But here's the key.
Okay.
We can't let those feelings paralyze us. We need to channel them into action.
Okay.
Into hope.
Yeah.
Into a determination to be part of the solution.
Right.
And that starts with connection.
Okay.
With connecting with others who share our concerns.
Yeah.
With finding inspiration in the stories of those who are making a difference. And with remembering that even small actions, when multiplied by millions, can create a powerful force for change.
So it's about finding strength in community and shared purpose. And in the belief that we're not alone in this fight. Exactly. And it's about remembering that hope is not a passive sentiment. It's a call to action.
It is.
It's a belief that a better future is possible.
Yeah.
And that we have the power to create it.
Exactly. And that's where I find my own hope.
Okay.
It's in the ingenuity, the resilience,
Yeah.
and the compassion of the human spirit.
Okay.
It's in the countless individuals and communities around the world who are working tirelessly to address this challenge, to build a more sustainable future, and to create a world where humanity and nature can thrive in harmony.
That's a vision worth fighting for.
Yeah.
And it's a reminder that even in the face of daunting challenges, there's always reason to believe in the power of human ingenuity, determination, and collective action.
I agree.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into global warming.
Yeah.
We've explored the science, the impacts, and even touched on the emotional weight of this whole issue.
For sure.
But I'm ready to shift gears now.
Okay.
Let's talk solutions.
Yeah, let's do it.
Because while the challenges are immense, I'm feeling a surge of, dare I say it, optimism.
I like where your head's at.
Okay.
It's easy to get bogged down in the doom and gloom.
Right.
But there's a real power in focusing on what we can do.
Yeah.
So in this final part, let's dive into that toolkit for change.
Okay.
Exploring the innovative solutions that are already making a difference and how we can all be part of the movement towards a more sustainable future.
All right, so we've covered individual actions like reducing our carbon footprint.
Right.
But let's zoom out a bit.
Okay.
What about the big picture? The systemic changes that need to happen at a global level?
Well, we've got to remember global warming is a global problem.
Yeah.
And that requires global solutions.
Okay.
Think international agreements like the Paris Climate Accord, where countries commit to reducing their emissions and investing in renewable energy.
Right.
It's not perfect.
Yeah.
But it's a framework for cooperation,
a
starting point for holding each other accountable.
And speaking of accountability, doesn't it all come down to government policies in the end?
Well, in many ways, yes.
So what are some of the key policy changes that can really move the needle on this issue?
There's a whole toolbox of policy options out there.
Okay, like what?
Think carbon pricing, which puts a price tag on pollution, making it more expensive to emit greenhouse gases.
So that disincentivizes it?
Exactly.
Okay. What else?
Or subsidies for renewable energy.
Okay.
Making clean technologies more competitive with fossil fuels. And regulations on industries. Right. Setting limits on emissions and promoting energy efficiency.
It sounds like a mix of carrots and sticks.
Yeah.
Incentivizing the good and disincentivizing the bad.
Exactly.
But isn't there a risk of economic disruption? What about jobs and industries that rely on fossil fuels?
That's a valid concern.
Yeah.
The transition to a clean energy economy needs to be just and equitable.
Right.
We need to invest in retraining programs, create new green jobs, and support communities that are most impacted by the shift away from fossil fuels.
Okay.
It's not about leaving anyone behind.
Right.
It's about building a more sustainable and inclusive future for everyone.
So it's a complex puzzle.
It is.
But it sounds like there are solutions out there.
Yeah.
But beyond policies, what about the role of technology?
Yeah.
I'm always reading about these incredible advancements.
Oh, really?
In clean energy and carbon capture.
Yeah.
Is technology the silver bullet we've been waiting for?
Technology is definitely a crucial part of the equation.
Okay.
Think about the incredible progress in solar and wind power.
Yeah.
Making renewable energy cheaper and more accessible than ever before.
Right.
And we're seeing breakthroughs in battery storage, electric vehicles, and even carbon capture technologies that can pull CO2 right out of the air.
It's like something out of a science fiction novel.
I know.
But it's happening right now.
It is.
But even with all this amazing tech, doesn't it all boil down to human behavior in the end? I mean, we can have all the solar panels and electric cars in the world.
Right.
But if people don't change their habits, will it really make a difference?
You're absolutely right.
Okay.
Technology can pave the way.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's up to us to walk the path.
Okay.
We need a cultural shift.
Yeah.
A collective awakening to the urgency of this crisis.
Right.
And the power we have to create change.
So how do we spark that cultural shift? How do we move beyond awareness to action?
It starts with conversations like this one.
Okay.
With people engaging with the issue, learning about the solutions and sharing their knowledge with others.
Right.
It's about storytelling, about showcasing the inspiring stories of individuals and communities who are already making a difference.
Yeah.
Demonstrating that change is possible.
And it's about fostering a sense of hope. right?
Absolutely.
Because it's easy to feel overwhelmed.
Yeah.
To think that our individual actions don't matter in the grand scheme of things.
We need to shift the narrative from despair to empowerment.
Okay.
From feeling like victims to feeling like agents of change.
All right.
Because the truth is, every action we take, every choice we make ripples outward, influencing those around us and contributing to a larger movement.
So it's like a snowball effect, gathering momentum as more and more people join the movement.
That's a great analogy. And it's already happening.
Oh, wow.
We're seeing a groundswell of activism led by young people, by indigenous communities, by scientists and artists and everyday citizens who are demanding action on climate change.
It's inspiring to see so many people coming together, raising their voices and demanding a better future. But I have to ask, is it enough? Are we moving fast enough to avert the worst case scenarios?
It's a race against time. There's no doubt about it.
Right.
But I remain optimistic.
Okay.
Because I believe in human ingenuity.
Yeah.
In our capacity for innovation and collaboration. And I believe in the power of collective action.
Right.
In the ability of ordinary people to come together and create extraordinary change.
This deep dive has been a journey.
It has.
From the depths of scientific understanding to the heights of human potential.
Right.
We've explored the complexities of global warming, the urgency of the situation, and the vast array of solutions within our reach.
That's right.
So it's been a privilege to share this journey with you.
The pleasure's all mine.
Remember, global warming is not just a scientific issue.
Right.
It's a human issue.
Absolutely.
And it's up to each and every one of us to be part of the solution.
I agree.
Keep learning. Keep exploring. And keep believing in the power of collective action. As we conclude this deep dive, I want to leave our listener with a final thought.
Okay.
Hope is not a passive sentiment.
No.
It's a call to action.
It is.
It's a belief that a better future is possible and that we have the power to create it. Together, let's turn that hope into reality.